Alright guys, so today I'm going to show you a little bit about charcoal. We're going to talk about the tools and all that fun stuff that goes with charcoal and what you need to do in order to make a drawing in charcoal. When I'm talking charcoal today, I am talking about these basic tools right here. So we have your standard charcoal pencil. They come in a variety of hardnesses, soft to hard to medium, and this just kind of says how much charcoal basically comes off when you draw with it, how soft the end is. If it's really soft, it makes more dark charcoal. If it's really not soft, then it makes hard charcoal. We also have white charcoal, which comes in a couple of sizes, but it's pretty standard. It just makes white charcoal. We need a blending tool like this. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but I like to keep one in for white charcoal and one in for dark charcoal or black. And then you need a regular old pencil with an eraser. That works. If you have one, kneaded erasers are pretty cool. They're basically erasers that are made of like this kind of clay stuff that can erase. Charcoal also comes in compressed form, which is like chalk kind of thing. So this is available as well. And it also comes in a white color too, but we're not going to really use this too much today. And then the final thing is it also comes in this vine charcoal form, which is pretty cool. It's basically like literal burnt stick. Like you can even see like the knots in the wood and all that fun stuff. This stuff is great for sketching and things like that, and it's cheap. However, for finished artwork, it kind of just comes right off the paper and stuff. So I'm not going to be using that today. Other things that I like to have around when I'm doing a charcoal drawing, just a regular piece of paper for covering, keeping my hand over it so I don't get charcoal everywhere, and then Kleenex or something like that to blend with. So, first things first, I really like charcoal. Charcoal is like one of my favorite things, and I do quite a few charcoal drawings. So this is a charcoal drawing in black and white. It's on gray paper, which is what we're going to talk about today. And on this gray paper, you can do some really, really cool stuff. So you'll see that this is just black and white charcoal, Star Wars themed. I've done a couple of fish and lots of other things, but charcoal's pretty cool. So, like I said, we're working on gray paper, tone gray paper, and that's basically just, instead of having white paper, you're going to be working on gray. And the cool thing about working on gray is you can add the black and white values that kind of come with the gray paper. You can add in the values and stuff with the charcoal. So what I'm going to show you guys today is a simple exercise to practice, to get comfortable doing charcoal first, and then from there you can work to get more advanced stuff. So I'm going to start out with my regular old pencil. I have a 2H pencil here, but you can use just any sort of pencil. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do a value scale. So you guys have done a value scale before, right? And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And a value scale is going to go from light to dark, right? However, because we are doing on gray paper, and because we have black and white charcoal, things are a little bit different than when we did it on pencil. So the dark is going to be the black charcoal, the light is going to be the white charcoal, but the weird thing that I'm going to do here is right in the middle, I'm actually going to leave it be the color of the paper. And I'm actually going to blend to the value of the paper. And so I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to start with my white charcoal, and I can color it in as bright as it goes. So if I were to color this in all the way white. Boom. Nice white square there, right? And I can keep doing the same thing as normal, just like I would normally do, getting lighter and lighter, right? So I'm going to color this one in a little bit lighter, and this one in a little bit lighter still. So there's just barely white on there. But the thing I'm going to do differently here is I'm going to leave this the gray value of the paper. This is the middle tone. And I like to do this way because it keeps your black and your white separate, which gives the picture kind of this illusion of having a color. So if my paper was to be blue or something like that, it would actually look like, you know, her face would be blue, instead of if I were to blend the black and white. And I'll show you what the black and white blended together it looks like too in just a second. Then I'm going to take my dark charcoal, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to go completely dark here. Now there's a trick with the dark charcoal. It is very soft, so you'll see what that means here in just a little bit. But I can do the same thing, dark, and then my light as I can. So there's my value scale to the middle, right? Cool, that works out great. Now let me show you real quick what it looks like if I were to blend the two together. So if I were to make another one of these, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and blend them together, the reason why I don't like to do this is it tends to look kind of, well, it looks gray, right? I can follow the same steps I was doing, but in this situation, I'm actually going to be going all the way over basically with my white because I'm going to be blending the two together. I don't really like to do this very often, but I'm going to show it to you guys. And then on this side, start out with my black. And it's going to take a little bit of work actually to get this to work. So I'm going to come all the way over, and then I'm going to grab my blending tool here. I'm going to show you what I mean. So you can kind of see already it's getting this like gray look to it, which is not exactly what we're looking for. At least I don't particularly care for it. It always looks more opaque, and it has this odd kind of effect to it that I'm not a big fan of. And it just looks like I colored with a different color. Now, is it effective? Sure, it does work. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I don't particularly care for the way it looks like it's blended and colored. Now, this one obviously it still has that look of being not blended yet, but if I were to take my tool and blend this together real quick, you'll note that it starts to come out quite nice. Note that I'm using a dark side, and then I'm going to flip over my tool and switch to the light side to blend to the whites together. This is because I don't want to use the dark, and like the darkness, the dark charcoal is really powerful, and it would easily kind of mess up my white charcoals if I used it on the white side. So I want to make sure that I keep them kind of separate. But like I just like the way this looks better than mixing the two together. Okay, so there's a charcoal value scale. You're going to make one of these. Then the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to do our typical basic shape that we're going to shade. And so that basic shape is going to be a sphere. So I'm going to draw on a sphere. I'm going to decide on my light source, and I'll color that in just so you guys can see it. So there's my light source, right? Shine. So my light source is shining onto my sphere. And so now I'm going to shade my sphere. And I'm going to start out just like normal, right? I have my highlight side, which I'm going to make fairly bright. And I'm going to blend that to the shadow side. But I'm going to use this value scale, the one up top, which means that middle value is going to be the gray of the paper. Now, you kind of choose where that gray is. Is it going to be on the shadow side? Is it going to be on the highlight side? I'm going to make my gray be right on the highlight side just before the Terminator. The Terminator is still going to be dark. But and if you remember, the Terminator is where the circle transitions from being highlight to shadow. It's that rollover area. It lays somewhere right about there. So, I'm going to add in my white area. I'm going to use my blending tool to blend. You'll note that I use a blending tool in charcoal a lot, and you should too. You don't have to, but I like it a lot. The thing you do need to be careful about when blending with the blending tool is that you might get rid of your bright light sources because it has a tendency to kind of blend it down to gray. And if that happens, you just go back in and you add more layers of charcoal. And that's just something that you do in basically all mediums, is you're going to go back in and add layers. Then I'm going to go in here with my dark charcoal. Now, because of the way the dark charcoal is so dark, I like to put it in the areas first that I know are going to be basically black, the darkest areas. So I know that that's the shadow area right here, and I know that it's going to be the cast shadow right here underneath the sphere. I know those are my darkest areas. And then I'm going to start using my blending tool to pull that dark shadow out. And I'm working in a circular motion, so it's like little circles. And I'm pulling it towards the lighter areas. See how far that dark charcoal really likes to blend? You didn't see that so much with the white charcoal because the white doesn't like to move as much as the black does. So I'm going to tend to put the darkest charcoal where I know the area is going to be dark, where I want the shadows and stuff. And then I can blend it out to the areas that need a little bit of gray. And so you can see how I'm really drawing more with my blending tool than I am with the charcoal itself. I'm using the charcoal almost as just a medium to apply some darkness to my thing. Now it's not going to be perfect here, a little rushed, but get something kind of like that. I'm going to go back in with my dark charcoal and really kind of bring that dark shadow back out, then switch back to my blending tool, drag that shadow around just like I did before. Notice how I can get that nice fuzzy edge that like you kind of get from an object because it doesn't have a perfect cast shadow, right? you get that fuzzy edge from the light bouncing around, the ambient light. Then I'm going to do a little cheating here. I'm going to take my dark charcoal and I'm going to outline this edge. This outline might not be there in the real world, but I want it there to kind of sharpen up my sphere a little bit because it's a little hazy on the edge. But I'm going to blend that in so it's not just like a pure black outline. And then I'm going to do the same thing coming on the white side. And I'm probably going to put in a highlight. So that highlight is the area where it reflects back to the viewer. And I'm going to blend that highlight in just a little bit. Notice I'm using that blending tool a lot. I like to really work back and forth, back and forth. But I'm keeping my white and dark side separate. I want to keep those separate so they keep nice and separated. And then I have my overall sphere color. Now something I might not have suggested is you can erase with charcoal, and actually it's really powerful. If I get an area like in here where it's maybe too much dark, I can take my eraser and lighten areas up. It's actually really cool to erase and shade and stuff with your eraser. And then you can blend with your fingers and stuff. That's just fine. I use that quite often. It's a little bit thicker than my blending tool, so I can blend in a larger area. And if I wanted to blend in a really large area, I probably use the Kleenex, because the Kleenex lets me blend a really soft, wide expanse without using up my making my blending tool really dirty. So I can get really nice, smooth blends. And if I wanted to make like a really, really subtle gray somewhere on there, I can just take whatever's on my blending stuff and just really lightly put a gray in. So that works out great. So that's a basic sheet. You're going to make one of these. You're going to do a value scale. You can ignore this one, just doing the middle to the middle value. And then you're going to make a sphere shaded just like this one. You can look up a sphere for shading if you want. But basically you want to try and see if you can control the shadows, leaving that gray value in between. If I were to label these as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as the dark value, you can kind of see 1, 2, 2, 3, and then this would be my 4, this would be 5, 6, 7, something like that. You can see all my values laying across my sphere. So that's kind of what I want you guys to do for your first assignment. Now I had this piece of paper here in case you are worried about getting charcoal all over your hand and stuff. I like to keep this underneath my drawing so I can rest my hand. Keep the paper still, move your hand on the piece of paper, and it won't make a mess. However, if you were to move your hand over your charcoal piece of paper, you will get it all over your hands, and it will smear and blend all over the place. So be careful about that. You don't want to do that. Try this out, practice it, and hopefully this will get you to learn a little bit more about charcoal.